I'm driving home earlier than usual, fighting exhaustion from another 12-hour shift at the construction site. It's Friday, a day that used to mean something special, pizza night with my wife, Kelly, and our friends. We'd stay up late, laugh over board games, and maybe watch a movie if we felt adventurous. But tonight, the house feels colder as I pull into the driveway. Something's off, and it isn't just the chill in the autumn air. I step out of my truck and notice Kelly's car parked haphazardly, almost as if she'd rushed home in a hurry. My gut twists, and I try to shake off the feeling, chalking it up to paranoia. Lately, she's been distant. Her laughter sounds forced, her smiles don't quite reach her eyes, and she's taken to spending more time out with the girls. Every time I ask about it, she brushes me off, making me feel ridiculous for even caring. Snap out of it, I mutter to myself, grabbing my duffel bag. My boots clunk against the front steps, and as I reach the door, I notice it isn't fully closed. It's cracked open, just enough to send a warning signal roaring in my head. I stand there for a second, frozen, and then slowly push the door wide open. Silence. The type of quiet that's too loud, where every sound you're expecting doesn't come. I drop my bag and walk inside, my hands trembling. The house smells different too. There's a faint, almost nauseating musk in the air, mixed with the scent of Kelly's favorite vanilla candles. My breath quickens as I make my way toward the living room. That's when I hear it. A low, muffled laugh, Kelly's laugh, coming from upstairs. My heart feels like it's trying to pound its way out of my chest. Every fiber of my being screams at me to run, to avoid whatever's happening up there, but I can't. I have to know. I creep up the stairs, each step feeling like a betrayal in itself, my legs heavy as lead. The laughter grows clearer, and then I hear his voice. A man's voice. Deep, cocky, and way too familiar. It's that of Marcus, Kelly's gym buddy. The one I never liked. The one she always said was just a friend. Breathe, I whisper to myself. Just breathe. I wish I could. But air doesn't come easy when the foundation of your world is about to crumble. At the top of the stairs, the door to our bedroom is wide open, and there they are. Kelly's straddling Marcus, her head thrown back in laughter as if she hasn't a care in the world. My heart stops, my hands clench into fists, and for a moment, I can't even process what I'm seeing. Then Marcus looks over, and our eyes lock. His grin freezes. "Damn it," he mutters, pushing Kelly off him. Kelly turns, and the blood drains from her face. Her mouth falls open, her eyes wide with something between guilt and annoyance. Yes, annoyance, as if I'm the one ruining her evening. "Jake," she says, her voice thin and forced. "Don't," I choke out, barely recognizing my own voice. "Don't say my name." The anger hits me like a tidal wave, but the betrayal? That cuts deeper. I've always considered myself a level-headed man, but right now, all I want to do is destroy something. Anything. Marcus stands up, hands raised like a coward caught in the act. Kelly's draped in nothing but a thin, black robe I bought her for our last anniversary, and the sight of it on her now, in this context, is a punch to the gut. "What the hell, man?" Marcus dares to say, as if he's the victim. I don't even answer. My gaze shifts to Kelly, the woman who vowed to love me forever, and I see her trembling. But there's something else there, something worse, defiance. As if she's daring me to react. "Jake," she starts, her voice gaining a sharp edge. "Before you go off, before I what?" I cut her off, and the room shakes with my fury. Before I get angry that my wife, is screwing another man in our bed? Kelly doesn't flinch. Her face hardens, and the tears I half expected don't come. Instead, she crosses her arms over her chest, her lips pulling into a thin line. Marcus inches away, looking like a kid caught stealing candy. I can barely see straight, my vision red with a rage I've never felt before. But even through the anger, her expression, her utter lack of remorse, hits me like a blow. "Jake," she says, her voice cool, almost rehearsed. "We need to talk." "Talk?" I echo, disbelief dripping from every syllable. My hands are still balled into fists, and I have to force myself not to lunge at Marcus. The coward has his hands up, as if he thinks I'll swing at him. I want to. God, I want to. Yeah, talk, she snaps back. Because clearly, we have issues. I let out a bitter laugh, a sound so foreign it startles even me. You think this is about issues? You're the issue, Kelly. You and this. I point at Marcus, who shrinks back even more. This piece of garbage you brought into our home. Kelly rolls her eyes, and that's when I know something fundamental has shifted in her. This isn't the woman I married, the woman I thought I knew. She looks at me like I'm the problem, like I've interrupted her perfect little world. You know what? She says, her voice rising. Maybe if you weren't so damn predictable, this wouldn't have happened. Predictable? I repeat, feeling the sting of the word. What the hell does that even mean? Marcus decides to find his voice then, stepping in as if he thinks he's some kind of hero. Look, man, this wasn't supposed to happen like this. We didn't mean for you to. Shut up, I growl, taking a step toward him. He backs off, his confidence vanishing in an instant. Don't even try to justify this. Jake. Kelly's voice slices through the tension. This is why. This right here. She gestures at me, exasperated. You think you're so strong, so in control, but you're not. You're just boring. You never surprise me anymore, never make me feel alive. I stare at her, stunned. Every word is like a knife in the chest. Boring? I repeat, my voice cracking. You think this justifies humiliating me? Making me into some joke? Her eyes flash, and for the first time, I see something close to guilt, but it doesn't last long. She straightens, pulling the robe tighter around her. I didn't want you to find out like this, she says, her voice softer. But maybe it's for the best. Maybe now we can stop pretending. I can't breathe. The weight of her words, the sheer callousness of them, presses down on my chest. Stop pretending? I echo. Pretending what, Kelly? That we had a marriage? That we had something real? She doesn't answer. Marcus is inching toward the door, probably thinking of making a run for it. I don't even care anymore. My focus is on Kelly, on the woman I built my life around. The woman who's now looking at me like I'm some inconvenience. Get out, I say, my voice low and trembling. Both of you. Marcus hesitates, and for a second, I think he might try to say something else. But one look at my face, and he's gone, bolting down the stairs and out the front door. Kelly stays, her chin lifted defiantly. This is my house too, she says, her voice icy. You can't just order me around. I take a shaky breath, fighting to keep myself from breaking down. Then get out of my sight, I whisper. Before I do something I regret. She flinches but doesn't argue. Instead, she walks past me, her perfume lingering in the air, tainted now by the betrayal clinging to her skin. I stand there, frozen, as she disappears down the hall. My mind is a whirlwind of disbelief, anger, and a pain so raw I can barely process it. When the house is finally silent, I fall to my knees, the weight of everything crushing me. I don't know how long I stay on the floor, my knees pressed into the hardwood, my body heavy and numb. The house is suffocatingly quiet, a stark contrast to the storm raging inside me. My thoughts spiral, trying to make sense of what just happened. But there's no sense in it, no logic to the betrayal I've just witnessed. Only pain, only disbelief. Eventually, the cold seeps into my bones, and I force myself to stand. My legs feel unsteady, as if the ground might give out beneath me at any second. I glance around our bedroom, my bedroom, and every object feels like a taunt. The framed photos on the nightstand, the decorative pillows Kelly insisted on buying, even the ugly painting we argued over once but kept because she liked it. All of it feels wrong now, like a setup in a theater, a stage where our so-called happy life played out, a farce. I stumble down the stairs, needing to escape, needing air. The front door is still cracked open from when Marcus ran out, and I push it wide, stepping into the cool night. The stars are scattered across the sky, mocking me with their indifference. The crisp wind bites at my face, but it doesn't do much to clear the fog in my mind. My phone buzzes in my pocket, and I nearly jump out of my skin. Pulling it out, I see a message from my best friend, Mike. Hey man, you good? Haven't heard from you in a bit. I stare at the words, and a wave of shame washes over me. Mike's always been there, always had my back, and yet I've kept my doubts about Kelly to myself, convinced I could handle it alone, convinced I was strong enough. And now I feel like a fool. I'm about to respond when I hear the faint sound of footsteps behind me. Turning, I see Kelly standing in the doorway, her robe now replaced with a hoodie and jeans. Her hair is pulled back in a messy bun, but she doesn't look like the woman I fell in love with. She looks like a stranger. "Jake," she starts, her voice softer, more hesitant than before. "We need to talk." I'm done talking. I spit out, the anger flaring again. "You've said enough." She steps closer, wrapping her arms around herself. "You have to understand." "Understand?" I cut her off, my voice rising. "You want me to understand how you humiliated me? How you tore our life apart for what? A fling? Some thrill?" Her eyes narrow, and there it is again, that flash of defiance. "It wasn't just a fling," she snaps. I am unhappy, Jake. We're both unhappy. You just won't admit it." I take a step back, as if her words are physical blows. "You're unhappy?" I echo. "So, instead of telling me, instead of trying to fix it, you screw around with some jerk and call me a cuckold?" Kelly's face twists, and she looks away, biting her lip. "I never meant for it to get this bad," she whispers. "But Marcus, he made me feel something I haven't felt in a long time." I laugh, a harsh, bitter sound. "Oh, he made you feel alive, right? Special? Isn't that how these things always go?" She looks back at me, and for the first time, I see something other than defiance. There's a flicker of regret, but it's too little, too late. The damage is done, and there's no undoing it. "Jake," she says, her voice breaking. "What do we do now?" I clench my jaw, every muscle in my body tensed like a coiled spring. "You made your choice, Kelly, and I'm done letting you walk all over me." The silence stretches between us, heavy and suffocating. She starts to say something, but I hold up a hand, cutting her off. "Just go," I whisper, my voice cracking. "Leave. Go wherever you need to be, just not here. Not with me." Kelly's eyes fill with tears, but she doesn't argue. She turns and walks away, the sound of her footsteps fading into the night. I watch her go, feeling like a part of me is shattering with every step she takes. But there's no room for weakness now, no time for second-guessing. The house is empty again, but it doesn't feel like home anymore. It feels like the aftermath of a war, and I'm the lone survivor left to pick up the pieces. The house feels like a tomb now, silent and cold. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of wind against the windows carries a ghost of memories that sting like fresh wounds. My hands shake as I close the front door, locking out the world, or maybe locking myself in with my misery. I'm numb, moving on autopilot as I head to the kitchen. I open the fridge, stare blankly at the leftovers Kelly had insisted on cooking last night, and feel the bile rise in my throat. The idea of eating, of doing anything remotely normal, makes me sick. Instead, I grab a bottle of whiskey, one I was saving for some special occasion that now feels laughable, and pour myself a generous amount. The first sip burns, but I welcome it. At least it cuts through the fog a little. I down another, then another, hoping to drown the images replaying in my mind. Kelly and Marcus, tangled together, her laughter, and the way she defended herself, the way she tried to turn it back on me. Predictable, she called me. Boring. The word echoes in my head, louder than the rage and hurt. I take another long drink, but it does little to numb the pain. Was I really that blind? Had our marriage been dying for so long without me noticing, or did I just choose not to see it? I hear the front door creak again, and for a split second, hope flares in my chest. But it's not Kelly coming back. It's Mike. He strides in without knocking, his usual grin replaced with a look of concern. He must have sensed something in my short, cryptic response to his text because he's here, his hands shoved into the pockets of his old leather jacket. "Hey," he says, taking one look at me and the half-empty glass in my hand. "Jesus, Jake, what happened?" I laugh again, that bitter, twisted laugh that doesn't sound like mine. "What didn't happen?" I gesture toward the living room, my voice slurred with anger and alcohol. Take a look around, Mike. You're standing in the ruins of my life. Mike frowns, stepping closer. You need to slow down with that, he says, nodding at the whiskey. Talk to me. What's going on? I set the glass down hard, some of the amber liquid splashing onto the counter. Kelly, I manage, my voice breaking. She's been screwing Marcus. In our house. In our bed. I feel the tears pricking at my eyes, but refuse to let them fall. Mike goes still, his face darkening. Are you serious? He asks, his voice low and dangerous. Marcus? That gym rat you never liked? Yeah, I whisper, running a hand through my hair. Guess I should have trusted my gut, huh? He lets out a string of curses under his breath, his hands curling into fists. I swear, if I see that piece of don't, I cut him off, my voice tired and hollow. It's not worth it. He's not worth it. And my voice falters, and I look away, ashamed of the tears threatening to spill. She isn't either. Mike sighs, running a hand over his face. He's angry, but more than that, he's hurt for me. He steps forward and pulls me into a hug, one of those brotherly, bone-crushing hugs that you hate but need. I let him, because at this moment, I don't have the strength to push him away. We'll get through this, he says, his voice rough but steady. You're not alone, man. We'll figure this out. I nod, but it doesn't feel real. Nothing feels real. My marriage, my life, everything I thought I knew. It's all shattered, and I'm left holding the broken pieces. As Mike pulls away, his eyes search mine, trying to gauge just how bad off I am. You've got options, he says, his tone more serious. I mean, you don't have to stick around and let her think she can keep walking over you. We can fix this, or at least figure out what comes next. His words should be comforting, but they only make the weight on my chest heavier. Options. Choices. But none of them bring back the life I thought I had, the woman I thought I loved. I look at Mike and manage a small, broken smile. Yeah, I say. I guess we'll see. He nods, but we both know it's not that simple. Not even close. Mike stays with me for a while, talking me down from the worst of my rage and shock. His voice is a lifeline, something I can focus on instead of the chaos churning inside me. But as the hours pass, and the whiskey slowly works its way out of my system, a cold clarity settles in. This isn't just a nightmare I can wake up from. This is my reality now. Eventually, Mike gives me a long, meaningful look. You gonna be okay? He asks, his voice laced with worry. I nod, even though I don't quite believe it myself. Yeah, man. Thanks for coming. He claps me on the shoulder, his grip firm. You call me if you need anything, all right? Anything? Will do, I reply, my voice hollow. He hesitates, clearly torn about leaving, but finally steps out the door, glancing back one last time before disappearing into the night. The silence that follows is deafening. The house feels even emptier now, a shell of the home it once was. I walk back into the living room, staring at the framed photos on the wall. There's one of Kelly and me on our wedding day, her smile wide and genuine, her eyes full of love, or so I thought. I feel a surge of anger and grab the frame, ready to smash it against the wall. But at the last second, I stop. I set it down gently, my hands trembling. Breaking things won't change anything. It won't erase the betrayal or bring back the life I had before. I need to think. I need to be smart, not reckless. But how? How do you even begin to process something like this? I sink onto the couch, my head in my hands. Kelly's words echo in my mind. Maybe if you weren't so damn predictable. I can't stop thinking about how she looked at me, not with guilt or regret, but with irritation, like I was the one ruining everything, as if her betrayal was somehow justified. The anger flares again, but this time it doesn't consume me. Instead, it sharpens into something cold and calculating. If she thinks I'm predictable, maybe it's time to show her just how wrong she is. I get up and grab my laptop, setting it on the coffee table. Logging in, I pull up our bank account. Kelly's been handling the finances for the past year, a decision I didn't think twice about at the time. But now, as I look at the numbers, I realize how naive I've been. There are charges I don't recognize, dinners at fancy restaurants, hotel bookings, spa days, none of which she ever mentioned to me. My jaw clenches. She's been living a double life, and I've been too blind to see it. I dig deeper, pulling up old records, trying to piece together a timeline of her deceit. The evidence is all there, like a trail of breadcrumbs leading to this moment. Anger churns in my gut, but I push it down. There's something almost liberating about seeing the truth laid out so plainly, even if it's ugly and painful. A knock at the door snaps me out of my focus. I freeze, my heart hammering. It's late, too late for anyone to be visiting. Slowly, I get up and walk to the door, half expecting to see Kelly standing there, ready to twist the knife in deeper. But when I open it, I'm met with a different face. It's Marcus. He's standing on the porch, looking uncomfortable and a little bit scared, but he tries to mask it with a cocky smirk. "Jake," he says, nodding. "Can we talk?" My fists clench at my sides, and I have to resist the urge to drag him off the porch and beat him senseless. "You have a lot of nerve showing up here," I say, my voice low and dangerous. He holds up his hands in a placating gesture. "Look, man, I get it. You're pissed. You have every right to be. But Kelly asked me to come over and talk things out. She's worried about you." "Worried about me?" I repeat, incredulous. "You think I give a damn about what she's worried about? After what you two did?" Marcus takes a step back, his smirk slipping. "Hey, I'm not the enemy here. I didn't plan for this to happen. It just did." "Get off my porch," I growl, taking a step forward. He backs up, but there's a flash of something in his eyes. Fear, yes, but also defiance. "Listen," he says, his voice hardening. "Kelly's not going anywhere. She said she'll be back tomorrow to talk, whether you like it or not. I just thought I'd come here first, to clear the air." My blood boils, but I force myself to stay calm. Losing control now would only make things worse. "Tell her not to bother," I say, my voice icy. "She's made her choice and I've made mine. There's nothing left to talk about." Marcus hesitates, then nods. "Fine," he says, turning to leave. "But don't say I didn't try." I watch him walk away, my heart pounding. As soon as he's gone, I slam the door shut, breathing hard. The anger is back, but this time it's mixed with something else, a resolve. If Kelly and Marcus think they can just walk all over me, they're in for a rude awakening. This is far from over. I stand there, leaning against the door, trying to steady my breathing. Marcus' words echo in my mind, and I can feel the heat rising up the back of my neck. They really think they've got the upper hand. That Kelly can waltz back into our house like nothing happened and expect me to sit there, waiting to be spoon-fed whatever half-truths and excuses she's prepared. But I'm done being predictable, done being the nice guy who forgives, who moves on quietly while everyone else gets to laugh behind my back. If they think they know me, they're about to learn just how wrong they are. I walk back to the living room, my mind already working overtime. The laptop is still open, the list of charges staring back at me, and an idea starts to form. I sit down, my fingers tapping against the table as I think. If Kelly's been using our shared resources to finance her double life, then I'm going to make sure she pays for it. Literally. I log into the banking app, my hands steady now, my anger channeled into something more productive. I start transferring small amounts from our joint account into my personal savings. Nothing big, nothing that'll raise immediate red flags, but enough that, over time, the difference will add up. I also set up alerts on the account so that I'm notified of any new transactions she makes. If she thinks she can keep siphoning money, she's in for a nasty surprise. Next, I pull out my phone and scroll through my contacts. I pause on the name of a lawyer I know from college, someone who specializes in family law. It's late, too late to call, but I save the number as a favorite, knowing I'll need it soon. The idea of divorce has always felt unthinkable, but now it feels like the only way to reclaim my life. A sharp pang of sorrow hits me at the thought of it, though. Despite everything, there's a part of me that doesn't want to let go. A part that remembers the good times, the way Kelly used to look at me when we first fell in love, the plans we made. But that part is shrinking, eclipsed by the overwhelming betrayal she brought into our marriage. I shake off the sentimentality, reminding myself that love shouldn't feel like this, shouldn't come with humiliation and deceit. The sooner I accept that, the better. A sudden noise outside pulls me from my thoughts. I freeze, listening. It's faint, like footsteps on gravel, and it takes a second to register. Someone's back. My heart pounds as I get up and peek out the front window. My body tense, ready for a fight. But when I see who it is, my breath catches in my throat. It's Kelly. She's standing on the porch, looking lost and small, her arms wrapped around herself for warmth. Her hair is pulled into a loose ponytail, and she's wearing an old sweatshirt of mine, one that used to make me smile whenever I saw her in it. But now it just feels like a cruel reminder. I watch her for a moment, a part of me wanting to open the door, to demand answers, to scream and cry and let her see just how much she's hurt me. But I don't. I stay hidden, watching as she pulls out her phone and types something. A second later, my own phone buzzes in my pocket. Please let me in. We need to talk. I stare at the message, my teeth grinding together. It's the last thing I want to do, but I know I have to face her eventually. Ignoring her forever isn't an option, no matter how much I wish it were. With a deep breath, I open the door, and she looks up, her eyes wide and glassy with unshed tears. "Jake," she whispers, taking a step toward me. "Can we please talk?" I hold up a hand, stopping her in her tracks. "Talk," I say, my voice devoid of any warmth. "But make it quick. I've heard enough lies for one night." She flinches, her eyes dropping to the ground. "I know you're angry," she starts, her voice trembling, "and you have every right to be. But you have to understand." Understand? I cut her off, my anger flaring up again. "You want me to understand why you cheated? Why you brought that bastard into our home?" I take a step forward, and she shrinks back. "I don't think there's any explanation that makes this okay, Kelly." Her eyes snap back to mine, a spark of defiance flickering to life. "You're right," she says, her voice growing steadier. "There's no excuse. But we've both been miserable, Jake. Pretending everything's fine when it's not." "Miserable?" I echo, incredulous. "Maybe you were miserable, but I was committed. I was here, trying to make it work. You were the one sneaking around." She bites her lip, tears spilling over. "I didn't know how to fix us," she says, her voice cracking. "And Marcus, he was a mistake, but it was easier than facing what we'd become." Her words hang in the air, and for a moment, all I feel is exhaustion. Maybe she's right. Maybe we were broken long before tonight. But it doesn't change the fact that she chose to shatter what little we had left. I step back, putting more distance between us. "You should leave," I say quietly. "We'll figure out what comes next, but not tonight." Her shoulders slump, and she looks like she wants to argue. But she doesn't. She nods, wiping her tears, and turns to go. As she walks away, a new kind of emptiness settles over me, one that feels final, like the closing of a chapter one wasn't ready to end. As the door closes behind Kelly, the finality of it presses down on me. I feel like I'm suffocating, drowning in the overwhelming silence that fills the house. My hands are still shaking, and the ache in my chest is relentless, a deep, throbbing pain that refuses to subside. I collapse onto the couch, staring blankly at the wall. The whiskey bottle is still sitting on the coffee table, but I don't reach for it. The alcohol isn't enough to numb this, not by a long shot. I lean forward, my head in my hands, trying to make sense of everything, but the harder I try, the more tangled my thoughts become. My phone buzzes again, but I can't bring myself to look at it. It's probably Mike checking in, or worse, Kelly trying to justify herself. The idea of reading her words, of letting her voice seep back into my head, makes my stomach turn. Instead, I grab the remote and turn on the TV, hoping for some mindless distraction, but nothing sticks. Every channel, every show feels hollow, empty. Eventually, I give up and turn the TV off, the room plunging back into that suffocating quiet. I should go to bed, try to get some sleep, but I know it's pointless. My bed is tainted now, a place I don't think I'll ever be able to rest comfortably in again. A part of me wonders if I should leave, if maybe I should pack a bag and get out of here for a few days. But where would I go? This is my home, or at least it was. Now it's just a house, filled with the echoes of a life that no longer exists. I force myself to stand, my legs heavy and unsteady. Maybe some air will help. I grab my jacket from the coat rack and step outside, into the dark and quiet of the night. The street is deserted, the houses around me dark and peaceful, their occupants blissfully unaware of the storm raging inside me. I walk down the driveway, my boots crunching on the gravel, and head down the street, with no real destination in mind. The cold air bites at my face, but it feels good. It clears my head a little, cutting through the fog of anger and grief. As I walk, I replay everything that's happened, trying to pinpoint the moment when everything went wrong. Was it when Kelly started pulling away? When she began staying out late, coming home smelling of cheap perfume and excuses? Or was it something deeper, something I'd ignored for too long? I'm so lost in thought that I almost don't notice the car approaching from behind. The headlights wash over me, and I step off the road, onto the grass, expecting it to pass. But it doesn't. The car slows, and I hear the crunch of tires on gravel as it pulls to a stop beside me. I glance over, my body tensing, ready for anything. The window rolls down, and a familiar face peers out. It's Marcus. Again. His expression is a mix of unease and bravado, and I feel my fists clench instinctively. "Jake," he says, leaning out of the car window. "Look, man, I didn't want things to get like this." I stare at him, barely able to contain the rage bubbling up inside me. "Then you shouldn't have come back," I say, my voice dangerously low. He sighs, rubbing a hand over his face. "Kelly, she called me. She's upset, and I thought maybe what?" I snap, stepping closer. "You'd come here and play the hero? Save her from the mess you helped create?" Marcus's eyes narrow, and some of his bravado returns. "You think this is all on me?" he fires back. "She came to me, man. She told me how miserable she was, how you didn't make her feel loved anymore." My hands curl into fists at my sides, and it takes everything I have not to rip him out of the car. "You don't get to blame me for this," I hiss. "You don't know a damn thing about what she and I had." He leans forward, his voice dropping to a sneer. "Maybe not, but I know one thing. She chose me. And maybe that's something you need to think about." That does it. I step forward, my vision going red. Marcus must see something in my eyes, because he jerks back, his hands flying up defensively. "Whoa, calm down, man," he shouts, but it's too late. The rage has already taken over. I slam my hand on the hood of his car, the metal denting under my fist. "Get out of here," I roar, my voice echoing down the empty street. Before I do something I can't take back, Marcus doesn't need to be told twice. He slams the car into gear and peels out, the tires screeching as he speeds away. I watch him go, my chest heaving, my whole body trembling with anger. But as the taillights disappear into the night, the rage drains away, leaving me feeling hollow and exhausted. I stand there for a long time, the cold seeping into my bones, and wonder if I'll ever feel whole again. I stand in the street, the night pressing down on me like a weight, my breath visible in the crisp air. The echo of Marcus's tires peeling away fades, leaving me in a heavy, all-consuming silence. The rage that had fueled me moments ago has drained away, leaving behind a void that feels endless. My hands hurt from where I slammed them into the car hood, but the physical pain is a welcome distraction from the chaos swirling inside. Eventually, I force myself to walk back to the house, each step heavier than the last. I want to believe that this is all some twisted dream I'll wake up from, but the sting in my knuckles is real, and so is the betrayal. When I get back inside, the living room feels more like a crime scene than a place of comfort. I glance around at the remnants of a life I thought was mine, now tainted and foreign. My phone buzzes again, and this time, I check it. It's Mike, and he's called 3 times, probably worried since I didn't answer before. Guilt twists in my gut. I should have let him know I was okay, or as close to okay as I could be under the circumstances. I call him back, and he picks up on the first ring. "Jake?" His voice is tight with concern. "Jesus, man, where have you been?" I was about to come back over. I'm here, I say, my voice hoarse. I just needed to get out for a bit. Clear my head. Are you all right? Mike asks, but we both know it's a question with no good answer. I let out a shaky breath. I'm holding on, barely. I pause, the silence between us thick with things left unsaid. Marcus showed up again. Mike curses under his breath. That son of a... What did he want? To rub it in, I guess, I say, the anger sparking up again, but weaker this time. More like embers than flames. To tell me Kelly chose him. As if that justifies anything. Bastard, Mike mutters. You want me to come over? We can figure out our next move together. I almost say yes, desperate for company, for something to hold on to. But another part of me knows I need to face this alone, at least for a little while. Thanks, man, I say, managing a half-hearted smile he can't see. But I think I need some time to think. To figure out what the hell I'm supposed to do now. Mike hesitates. All right, but you call me if you need anything. Anything, you hear me? I hear you, I reply, grateful for his loyalty, even when everything else feels like it's crumbling. We hang up, and the quiet settles over me again, thick and suffocating. I sit on the couch, leaning forward with my head in my hands. The whiskey bottle on the table catches my eye, but I don't reach for it. If I start drinking now, I might not stop, and I can't afford to lose myself in that kind of oblivion. Not when I have decisions to make. My thoughts drift back to Kelly's face, the defiance, the way she tried to justify her betrayal by calling our marriage broken. Maybe it was. Maybe I was blind to the cracks. But that doesn't excuse what she did. The way she laughed with Marcus, her lips curling into a smirk that still haunts me. The weight of it all presses down on me, and for a moment, I'm tempted to let it break me. But then, an old memory surfaces, something my dad once told me when I was a kid, back when I thought the world would end over a scraped knee or a failed test. You're stronger than you think, Jake. Don't let the hard times define you. I close my eyes, clinging to that memory like a life raft. I'm not the kind of man who gives up, who lets betrayal turn him into a victim. If Kelly wants to see a side of me she's never seen before, she's about to get her wish. I push myself off the couch, feeling a sliver of resolve harden in my chest. The first step is getting my affairs in order, protecting what's mine. I head upstairs to the office, where the paperwork for the house, our joint accounts, and everything else important is filed. As I start to sort through it all, I know one thing for certain. I may be broken, but I'm not destroyed. And if Kelly thought she could shatter me without consequence, she's about to learn how wrong she is. I sift through the paperwork in the office, my hands steady now, my mind clearer than it has been all night. Each document I pull from the filing cabinet feels like a piece of armor, a layer of protection I'm wrapping around myself in preparation for the battle ahead. It's strange how betrayal can sharpen you, harden you, how the person you loved most can become the very reason you learn to fight. My fingers tighten around our mortgage papers, the deed to the house that Kelly and I bought together. Our dream home, the one we were supposed to grow old in, fill with laughter and memories. Now, every corner feels haunted, tainted by her infidelity. As I organize the files, I make a mental list of everything that needs to be done. Talk to the lawyer, start the process of separating our assets, and figure out the next steps for my own future. It's overwhelming, but it's better than feeling powerless. The doorbell rings, jolting me out of my thoughts. My heart pounds, and for a second, I'm afraid it's Marcus or, worse, Kelly. But when I check the peephole, it's neither. It's my neighbor, Mrs. Ellison. She's standing on the porch, bundled in a coat, clutching a tray covered in foil. Her kind eyes, lined with years of wisdom, meet mine through the glass. I take a deep breath and open the door. Mrs. Ellison, I say, trying to keep my voice steady. What brings you here this late? She gives me a small, knowing smile. I heard raised voices earlier, she says gently, her gaze soft but perceptive. And I saw Marcus driving away like a bat out of hell. Thought you could use some company, or at least a hot meal. I stare at her, stunned by the simple kindness. It takes me a moment to find my voice. You didn't have to do that. Nonsense, she replies, pushing the tray into my hands. Everyone needs a little help now and then, especially in hard times. I swallow the lump in my throat and step aside, gesturing for her to come in. She does, and the familiar scent of her homemade lasagna wafts into the hallway. It's a smell that brings back memories of block parties, neighborhood get-togethers, and simpler times. Times when I didn't have to worry about betrayal or heartbreak. She follows me into the kitchen, and I set the tray on the counter. Mrs. Ellison watches me, her brow furrowed with concern. "You don't have to tell me what happened," she says softly, "but just know I'm here. You and Kelly have always seemed so happy." I almost laugh, but it comes out more like a choked sound. "Yeah," I say, my voice rough. "We were good at pretending." Her eyes narrow slightly, and for a moment, I think she knows. Maybe she's pieced it together from the shouting, or from the way Marcus has been around too often lately. But she doesn't push. Instead, she reaches out and pats my hand. "I've been married 45 years, she says, her voice gentle, "and I've seen friends go through some tough things. Don't let this destroy you, Jake. You're stronger than whatever's trying to break you." Her words settle over me like a warm blanket, and for the first time tonight, I feel something close to peace. "Thanks," I murmur. "I appreciate that." She nods, her eyes kind but watchful, and then she leaves me with the lasagna and more warmth than I thought I could feel in this broken house. When she's gone, I sit at the table, staring at the meal she brought. I don't have much of an appetite, but I force myself to eat, knowing I need to keep my strength up. One bite turns into two, and before I know it, I've finished half the plate. The food sits heavy in my stomach, but it also gives me energy, the kind I'm going to need for what comes next. I clean up and head back to the office, but this time, I'm not just looking at paperwork. I open my laptop and start making a plan. A real plan, one that will ensure I come out of this with my head held high and my dignity intact. It's time to stop reacting and start taking control. Kelly and Marcus may have thought I'd roll over and let them win, but they underestimated me. If they want to fight, they're going to get one, and I won't lose. The glow from my laptop screen illuminates the dark office as I start to put my plan into motion. My fingers fly over the keyboard, typing out an email to the lawyer I had saved in my contacts earlier. I outline my situation briefly, emphasizing the urgency, and ask for a consultation as soon as possible. When I hit send, a weight lifts from my chest. It's a small step, but it's the first one, and right now, that's all I need. Next, I start researching divorce laws in our state. I've always been practical, methodical, and it serves me well now. Knowledge is power, and I refuse to walk into this blindly. As I read through the information, the reality of what lies ahead becomes clearer. There will be battles over property, accounts, and the emotional fallout of splitting up a marriage that was supposed to last forever. But I'm ready for it. Or, at the very least, I'm willing to fight. I hear a creak from the hallway, and for a moment, my heart jumps into my throat. The house has been playing tricks on me all night, every sound magnified by the tension and the emptiness. I get up, quietly stepping out of the office to make sure everything's as it should be. The shadows stretch long across the walls, and I realize how eerie it feels to be here alone now, knowing that this place doesn't hold the same safety it once did. I head upstairs, checking the locks and peeking into the bedroom. The sheets are still rumpled from this afternoon, a glaring reminder of Kelly's betrayal. I force myself to breathe deeply, resisting the urge to rip everything apart. Destroying things won't fix what's broken, and I need to keep my composure if I'm going to come out of this intact. Back downstairs, I grab my phone and scroll through the photos, something I haven't had the strength to do until now. Pictures of Kelly and me, smiling at the beach, laughing at a friend's wedding, even just cozy selfies in our living room. The memories are a double-edged sword, cutting deep but reminding me that I was happy once, that I deserve to be happy again. But as I swipe, I stop on a photo of Marcus and me. It was taken at a barbecue last summer, and I'm grinning like an idiot, completely unaware of the betrayal brewing right under my nose. Marcus has an arm slung around my shoulder, his smile wide and carefree. Looking at it now, I can't help but wonder how long he's been lying to me, laughing at me behind my back. The anger bubbles up again, but this time, I welcome it. It sharpens my resolve. I won't let them make a fool of me any longer. My phone buzzes with another message, and this time it's from Kelly. I brace myself before reading it, knowing it'll only dredge up more emotions. Jake, we need to talk. Please. I know you're angry, but ignoring this won't fix anything. Ignoring it. As if I'm the one running away from the truth. I clench my jaw, feeling the familiar surge of hurt and rage, and I force myself to set the phone down before I do something rash. It's tempting to respond, to unleash everything I'm feeling, but I know it won't help. Kelly isn't the same person I married. The woman who vowed to stand by me has been replaced by someone I don't recognize, someone willing to tear our life apart without a second thought. Instead, I type out a simple message, "We'll talk when I'm ready." Not before. It's not much, but it's enough to give me some control over the situation, to let her know that I won't be manipulated or drawn into a confrontation on her terms. This time, I'm setting the rules. The house settles around me, and I realize how exhausted I am. The emotional roller coaster of the day has drained every bit of energy from my body. I head back to the office, shut down the laptop, and stand in the dark for a moment, letting the quiet wash over me. I know the hardest days are yet to come. There will be more confrontations, more moments of weakness, more nights spent feeling hollow and angry. But for the first time since this nightmare began, I feel a sliver of hope. A small, fragile flame that whispers of a future where I'm not defined by Kelly's betrayal. I head to the living room, grab a blanket, and collapse onto the couch. Sleep comes slowly, but when it does, it's dreamless and deep. And for tonight, that's enough. Morning comes too soon, and the sunlight streaming through the living room windows feels harsh, like it's accusing me of something. I sit up, the blanket falling away, and for a split second, I hope that maybe everything from the night before was just a nightmare. But reality crashes back in, heavy and inescapable. The empty whiskey bottle on the coffee table, the ache in my chest, all reminders that the life I knew is gone. I rub my eyes and head to the kitchen, needing caffeine to even attempt functioning. As the coffee brews, my phone buzzes again. I'm half expecting another message from Kelly, but when I look, it's from Mike. "I'm bringing over breakfast. Be there in 10. Part of me wants to tell him I don't need babysitting, that I'm fine handling this on my own. But the truth is, I'm not. And right now, the idea of seeing a friendly face feels more like relief than anything else. When Mike arrives, he's carrying a paper bag and 2 cups of coffee. He walks in without knocking, like he always does, and sets the food down on the kitchen table. "Hope you like greasy breakfast sandwiches," he says, trying for a smile. "Thanks, man," I say, managing a weak smile in return. We sit down, the silence between us heavy but comfortable. Mike doesn't push me to talk, and for that, I'm grateful. He just sips his coffee, waiting. Finally, I sigh, running a hand through my hair. I started making moves. I tell him. Contacted a lawyer. Started pulling our financial records. It's a mess. Mike nods, his expression serious. Good. You need to be prepared. And hey, whatever happens, I've got your back. We eat in silence for a while, the food sitting heavily in my stomach. But I feel a bit steadier, a bit more grounded, with Mike here. When we finish, he leans back in his chair, his eyes narrowing. "So, what's the plan if she tries to come back?" he asks. I swallow hard, the thought of seeing Kelly again twisting my gut. I told her we'll talk when I'm ready. Not before. But I don't know. I don't know what I'll say when I do. Mike's jaw tightens. "You don't owe her anything, Jake. Remember that. She made her choices. You're allowed to put yourself first now." His words settle into me, a painful but necessary truth. I nod, knowing he's right. Still, it feels surreal, like I'm watching someone else's life unravel. "Thanks," I say quietly. "I don't know what I'd do without you, man." He gives me a small smile, but before he can respond, there's a knock at the door. My whole body tenses, the coffee cup in my hand freezing midway to my lips. Mike notices, his eyes narrowing. "You expecting anyone?" he asks. I shake my head. We both stand, and he follows me to the door, his presence a solid reassurance. When I open it, I'm not sure what, or who, I'm expecting. But it's definitely not Kelly's mom, standing there with a worried expression on her face. "Jake," she says, her voice soft and careful, like she's approaching a wounded animal. Can I come in? I glance at Mike, who crosses his arms, looking like he'd rather tell her to leave. But I know she's not here to make things worse. Kelly's mom, Linda, has always been kind to me, treating me like family even when Kelly and I were at our worst. I step aside, and she walks in, her eyes scanning the living room like she's trying to gauge the damage. Linda, I say, my voice tight. What are you doing here? She sighs, her shoulders sagging. I came to check on you. Kelly called me last night, upset, and I needed to hear your side of things. Mike stays silent, but I can feel his tension radiating off him. I cross my arms, leaning against the wall. My side. I echo, my voice hardening. There's not much to say, Linda. Your daughter cheated on me, brought her lover into our home. There's nothing more to it. Linda's face falls, and for a moment, I almost feel bad for her. She's caught in the middle, trying to reconcile the image of her daughter with the truth of what she's done. I'm so sorry, she whispers, her voice cracking. I had no idea things had gotten this bad. If I did, she trails off, and I feel a flicker of something close to compassion. But it doesn't last. The wound is too fresh, the betrayal too deep. I appreciate you coming, I say, my voice softer now. But there's nothing you can do to fix this. She nods, tears welling in her eyes. I just wanted you to know that I'm here if you need anything. And if you want to talk to Kelly, I'll be with her. At least for now. I clench my jaw, the thought of facing Kelly again making my stomach turn. Thanks, I manage, and she gives me a sad smile before turning to leave. As the door closes behind her, Mike lets out a low whistle. Damn, he mutters. Didn't see that coming. Me neither, I admit, sinking back into my chair. The weight of it all presses down on me again, but this time, I feel a spark of determination. I'm not just fighting for myself anymore. I'm fighting to rebuild a life that's worth living, even if it means tearing down everything I thought I knew first. After Linda leaves, the tension in the house feels thicker, like a storm cloud that refuses to break. Mike is still standing beside me, his arms crossed, his jaw set in a hard line. He looks like he's ready to fight, to defend me from whatever blow comes next, but I know this is a battle I have to face on my own. You okay? He asks, his voice low and cautious. I nod, even though I don't quite believe it. I will be, I say, more to convince myself than him. This just complicates things. He raises an eyebrow. How so? I sigh, running a hand through my hair. Kelly's mom showing up, trying to bridge the gap. It's not as simple as cutting ties and walking away. There are people caught in the crossfire, people I care about. Mike's expression softens. Yeah, but don't let that change your course. You can be compassionate without sacrificing yourself, Jake. Remember that. I give him a small, grateful smile. Thanks, man. Really. He claps me on the shoulder, his touch grounding me. Anytime. Now, do you want me to hang around? Or are you good on your own? I hesitate. Having Mike here feels like a shield against the loneliness and the crushing reality of everything. But I also know I need to face this alone eventually. I think I'll be okay, I say, but I'll call if I need backup. He grins. You better. With that, he heads out, leaving me alone in the silence of the house once more. This time, though, it doesn't feel quite as suffocating. The conversation with Linda lingers in my mind. The way her voice cracked when she apologized, the pain in her eyes when she realized just how much damage Kelly had done. I wander back into the kitchen and pour myself another cup of coffee, the caffeine doing little to chase away the exhaustion hanging over me. My phone buzzes on the counter, and I brace myself, half expecting another message from Kelly. But it's not her. It's my sister, Emma. Hey, just heard from Mike. Are you okay? Want me to come over? I stare at the message, a wave of emotions washing over me. Emma and I have always been close, and she's the one person who knows me better than anyone. The idea of her coming over, of having someone who understands, is tempting. But at the same time, I don't know if I'm ready to be that vulnerable yet. I'm hanging in there. I type back. Might take you up on that later, but for now, I just need some time. Her reply is almost immediate. Okay, but I'm here whenever you're ready. Love you, bro. I smile, feeling a warmth I didn't think was possible right now. Love you too, I respond, and then set my phone down. The messages from Emma and the support from Mike remind me that I'm not alone, even if it feels that way sometimes. But as the morning wears on, the reality of what needs to be done presses down on me again. I can't just sit here, waiting for Kelly to make the next move. I need to be proactive, to make decisions that protect me in whatever future I'm trying to salvage. I go back to the office and open my laptop. The lawyer I contacted has already responded, asking for more details and suggesting we meet in person to discuss my options. I reply, setting up a meeting for the next day, and then sit back, feeling the weight of that decision settle over me. This is happening. It's real. I get up and start pacing, the restless energy building inside me. My mind races with questions I don't have answers to. What if Kelly fights me for the house? What if she tries to drag this out, make it messier than it already is? And what about the people caught in the middle? Linda, my friends, even Mike, who's trying to stay loyal but is getting pulled into the drama. I grab my keys, needing to get out of the house. The walls feel like they're closing in, and I need air, need to move. Without thinking too much about where I'm going, I get in my truck and start driving. The familiar roads and scenery calm me a bit, and I find myself heading toward the park where Kelly and I used to go on lazy Sunday afternoons. When I get there, the place is nearly empty, save for a few joggers and an older couple walking their dog. I park and sit for a moment, watching the world go on as if nothing has changed. I used to find comfort here, used to believe this was a place where we'd make more memories, grow old together. Now it feels like a graveyard of broken promises. I get out of the truck and walk to a bench near the lake, the crisp air biting at my skin. The water is calm, the surface reflecting the sky, and I feel the weight of everything settle into me again. But this time, I let it. I sit with the pain, the grief, and the anger, knowing that I have to face it if I ever want to move forward. In the distance, a family is playing with their dog, laughter echoing across the park. It feels surreal, a reminder of the life I thought I had. But I refuse to let it break me. I've survived worse, and I'll survive this too. I take a deep breath, the cold air filling my lungs, and make a promise to myself. I will get through this. Even if it means starting over from scratch, even if it means rebuilding my life one painful piece at a time. I sit on the bench by the lake, the cold seeping into my bones, but I don't move. The stillness of the water and the distant laughter feel almost mocking, like a life that's taunting me with its normalcy. For a moment, I let the anger and sadness coexist, letting them swirl together until they form a quiet, grim determination. I can't sit in this park forever, no matter how much I want to escape. Eventually, I get up, my body feeling heavier than before, and make my way back to the truck. As I climb in and start the engine, my phone buzzes. I glance at the screen, and my heart sinks when I see the name flashing. Kelly. I don't want to answer, but I know that ignoring her won't make the problem go away. With a heavy sigh, I press the call button and hold the phone to my ear. What do you want, Kelly? I ask, my voice coming out more tired than angry. There's a pause on the other end, and for a second, I think she might hang up. But then her voice comes through, small and wavering. Jake, we really need to talk. I'm outside the house. The house. Our house. The place that used to be our sanctuary but is now nothing more than a battlefield. I'm not there, I say, my grip tightening on the steering wheel. But I'm on my way back. Please hurry, she says, and there's something in her tone that sounds almost desperate. We need to figure this out. I hang up without responding, feeling a fresh wave of anxiety and anger wash over me. I know I'm not ready for this conversation, but it's clear that there's no escaping it. If she wants to talk, then fine. We'll talk. But I won't be the passive, predictable man she expects. The drive back is a blur, my mind racing through all the things I want to say to her, all the things I know I shouldn't say. When I pull into the driveway, her car is already there, parked neatly as if nothing is out of the ordinary. But everything about this is wrong. I get out of the truck and walk up to the front door, my heart pounding in my chest. Kelly is standing on the porch, her arms wrapped around herself, her face pale and drawn. She looks up when she sees me, and for a moment, I almost feel sorry for her. Almost. Jake, she starts, her voice cracking. Can we go inside? Please. I consider saying no, making her suffer in the cold the way I've been suffering since I found out about her betrayal. But instead, I nod and unlock the door, stepping aside to let her in. We walk into the living room, and the silence between us is suffocating. She stands there for a moment, looking around like she's seeing the place for the first time. Her eyes land on the photos on the wall, the memories we built together, and she flinches. I'm so sorry, she whispers, her voice thick with tears. I never wanted this to happen. I cross my arms, leaning against the wall. Then why did it? I ask, my voice hard. If you never wanted it, then why did you throw everything away? She looks at me, her eyes glistening. I don't know, she admits, her voice breaking. I felt trapped, suffocated. And Marcus, he made me feel free, alive. But it was a mistake. A horrible mistake. I want to yell, to scream that a mistake is spilling coffee on a new shirt, not tearing someone's heart out. But I keep my voice steady. You made a choice, Kelly. Over and over again. Don't call it a mistake just because you got caught. She winces, tears spilling down her cheeks. You're right, she says. I did make a choice, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. But please, can't we try to fix this? Fix this? I repeat, disbelief coursing through me. How do you propose we do that? Because right now, all I see are the pieces of what used to be our marriage, shattered on the floor. She takes a step toward me, her hands trembling. I'll do anything, she says. Therapy, counseling, whatever it takes. I still love you, Jake. Please believe that. I laugh, a harsh, broken sound. You love me? Is that what you tell yourself to sleep at night? Because love doesn't look like betrayal, Kelly. It doesn't look like bringing another man into our bed. Her face crumples, and she sinks onto the couch, her head in her hands. I know, she sobs. I know I hurt you in ways I can't even begin to fix. But I'm begging you, don't throw us away. I stand there, my heart pounding, torn between the love I once had for her and the rage that's taken its place. The room feels too small, too suffocating, and I struggle to breathe. I don't know if there's anything left to save, I say, my voice cracking. You broke us, Kelly, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to look at you the same way again. She lifts her head, her eyes filled with desperation. Then let me try, she pleads. Please, Jake, let me try to make it right. I don't answer right away. I can't. The weight of the decision presses down on me, threatening to crush me. Because no matter what I choose, nothing will ever be the same again. The room is heavy with the tension between us, so thick and suffocating that it feels like I'm drowning in it. Kelly sits on the couch, her face streaked with tears, her hands clasped together like she's praying for a miracle. I watch her, the woman I once loved more than anything, and I struggle to reconcile this version of her with the memories I hold so tightly. She's asking for a second chance, for forgiveness that I'm not sure I have the strength to give. But how do you forgive someone who's shattered your trust, who's turned your world upside down? My mind races, torn between the life we built and the pain she's caused. Jake, she whispers, her voice breaking the silence. Please, just tell me what to do. I want to scream that there's nothing she can do, that she's already done enough damage. But I force myself to stay calm, to think rationally. You want to fix this? I ask, my voice colder than I intended. Tell me the truth, all of it. No more lies, no more half-truths. I deserve to know everything. She flinches but nods, wiping her tears. Okay, she says, her voice small. I'll tell you everything. I sit down across from her, my heart pounding, bracing myself for whatever confessions she's about to make. Start from the beginning, I say, leaning forward. How long has this been going on? She hesitates, her eyes darting to the floor. It started 6 months ago, she admits, her voice trembling. It was just flirtation at first, something that felt harmless. But then, it escalated. Escalated? I echo, my voice tight with barely controlled anger. Into what? How often were you with him? She swallows hard, her face pale. A handful of times, she whispers. I swear, it wasn't. It wasn't like we were constantly together. But it was enough to make me feel alive again. Like I wasn't just trapped in a life that felt suffocating. My hands clench into fists, the betrayal cutting deeper with every word she says. And you thought bringing him into our home was okay? I ask, my voice trembling. Did you even think about me? About how much this would destroy us? Her tears start up again, and she shakes her head. I wasn't thinking, she sobs. I was selfish and stupid. I thought I could have both. You and this thrill. I never thought it would come to this. A bitter laugh escapes my lips, and I shake my head. You thought you could have both, I repeat. Like our marriage was something you could just put on hold whenever you felt bored. She stands, taking a step closer, her desperation palpable. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm begging you, she says, her voice cracking. Give me a chance to prove I can be better. That we can be better. I feel a tear escape, rolling down my cheek, and I hate how vulnerable I feel. How can I ever trust you again? I whisper, the pain raw in my voice. Every time you leave the house, every time your phone buzzes, how will I know you're not betraying me again? She's silent, her shoulders sagging under the weight of my words. And in that silence, the truth becomes painfully clear. Trust, once shattered, is nearly impossible to rebuild. I don't know if I have it in me to try, or if the anger and hurt will poison any attempt at reconciliation. I don't know if I can forgive you. I admit, my voice breaking. I don't know if I even want to. Her face crumples, and she sinks back onto the couch, sobbing. I'm so sorry, she chokes out. I love you, Jake. I never stopped loving you. But love isn't enough anymore. Love didn't stop her from tearing our life apart. I stand, the weight of the decision pressing down on me like a physical burden. I have to walk away, to put distance between us before I make a choice I can't take back. I need time, I say, my voice cracking. Time to think. Time to figure out if there's anything left to save. She looks up at me, hope flickering in her eyes, but I turn and walk away, heading for the door. The cold air hits me as I step outside, but it doesn't make me feel any clearer. If anything, it makes me feel more lost. I sit on the porch steps, my head in my hands, and wonder if this pain will ever go away. If I'll ever be whole again. The future feels like an uncertain, desolate place, and I'm not sure if I'll ever be ready to face it. I sit on the porch steps, staring at the horizon as the sky starts to darken, the colors bleeding into deep blues and purples. The evening air is sharp and cold, wrapping around me like a heavy blanket, but I barely feel it. My thoughts are tangled, a mess of what-ifs and shattered memories. The woman I vowed to spend my life with is inside, pleading for a second chance, and yet here I am, outside in the cold, trying to make sense of it all. It feels surreal, like an out-of-body experience. I wonder if there's a version of me in some parallel universe who didn't have to go through this, who is still blissfully ignorant of the betrayal and the pain. But that's not my reality. My reality is fractured, split down the middle with jagged edges that cut deep. The sound of the door opening behind me pulls me out of my thoughts. I don't turn around, but I know it's Kelly. She steps out onto the porch, her footsteps hesitant, like she's unsure whether she should come any closer. The silence stretches between us, heavy and awkward. Jake, she says quietly, her voice trembling. I know you need time, but I just can't stand seeing you like this. Seeing us like this. I don't respond right away. The anger has dulled to a cold, aching numbness, and I'm too exhausted to fight anymore. Finally, I look over my shoulder, meeting her tear-filled eyes. I don't know if there's any fixing this, I say, my voice flat. Even if I wanted to try, I don't know how. She wipes her face, her hands trembling. I know, she whispers, and it kills me that I did this to us. To you. But I'll do whatever it takes. Therapy, moving away, starting over anything. I take a deep breath, the air burning in my lungs. Anything? I repeat. You say that now, but what about 6 months from now? A year from now? How do I trust that you won't do this again? She doesn't have an answer, and the silence that follows says more than words ever could. Trust, once shattered, can't be repaired with promises alone. And no matter how much she swears she's changed, there's a part of me that knows I'll always be waiting for the other shoe to drop. I can't keep living like this. I continue, my voice cracking, worrying, doubting, feeling like I'm never enough. That's not a life. That's a prison. Her face crumples, and she presses a hand to her mouth, her shoulders shaking with sobs. Please, she whispers, her voice breaking. Please don't give up on us. I stand up, the weight of everything pressing down on me. I'm not giving up, I say, even though the words feel hollow. I'm trying to protect myself, because I don't know who I am anymore, and I can't keep sacrificing pieces of myself for someone who betrayed me. She looks at me, her eyes wide and full of a desperation that used to move me, that used to make me want to fix everything. But now, all it does is remind me of how far we've fallen, how far she's pushed me away. I need to go, I say, stepping past her. She doesn't try to stop me this time, and that almost makes it worse. I grab my keys from the kitchen counter, the house feeling suffocating with every step I take. Where are you going? She asks, her voice small and broken. Out, I reply. I don't know where yet. I just need to clear my head. She nods, and I see the hope flicker and die in her eyes, replaced by something that looks a lot like defeat. Be safe, she whispers. I don't respond. I walk out the door, down the steps, and get into my truck. The engine roars to life, and I pull out of the driveway, not looking back. The road stretches out in front of me, empty and dark, but at least it's a direction. A place to start, even if it's nowhere at all. I drive aimlessly, my mind racing with everything that's happened. Memories flash through my mind. Our wedding day, the time we danced in the kitchen just because, the way she used to look at me when she thought I wasn't paying attention. Those moments are ghosts now, haunting me, and I don't know how to exorcise them. Eventually, I find myself at the edge of town, parked by the river where I used to come to think. The water is calm, reflecting the sliver of moonlight that's beginning to emerge. I sit there, the engine idling, and wonder if I'll ever feel like myself again. The decision I have to make feels impossible, but it's mine to make, and no one else's. As I sit there, watching the river flow by, I realize that whatever happens next, I have to choose myself, even if it means walking away from the life I thought I wanted. The river flows quietly under the moonlight, each ripple catching the faint, silvery glow. I cut the engine and sit there, listening to the sound of the water and my own ragged breathing. For the first time in what feels like forever, there's a strange kind of peace here. A moment where the world isn't spinning, where I'm not drowning in emotions that threaten to pull me under. I lean back in the seat, closing my eyes. The decision still looms over me, but something about being here, in this place that has always brought me clarity, makes it feel a little less overwhelming. I think about everything Kelly said, about her promises and her pleas. And I think about what Mike told me, what Linda tried to express, and the unconditional support from my sister, Emma. They all want to help, to guide me, but ultimately, no one can make this choice for me. I take a deep breath and try to separate the pain from the memories. It's hard, so damn hard. But as I sit there, I start to realize something. I've been trying to make a decision based on the past. The love we had, the life we built, the promises we made. But none of that exists anymore, not the way it did. And if I keep looking back, I'll never be able to move forward. I know I need to decide what's best for me, not for the ghost of the life we had, not for the future we planned that will never come to pass, but for who I am right now, a man who's been broken but refuses to be destroyed. My phone buzzes on the passenger seat, and I look over, expecting another message from Kelly. But it's from Emma. I know you said you needed time, but I'm here if you need me, even if it's just to sit in silence. A smile tugs at my lips, the first genuine one I've felt in days. My sister has always been my anchor, and knowing she's there, waiting, makes me feel a little less alone. I type back, I could use some company. Meet me at the river? Her reply comes almost immediately. On my way. I set the phone down and watch the road, waiting for her headlights to appear. As I wait, the tension in my chest loosens, just a bit. I'm not naive enough to think that seeing Emma will magically make everything okay, But maybe it'll remind me that I'm not as lost as I feel, that there's a way through this, even if it's a winding, painful road. A few minutes later, her car pulls up beside mine. Emma steps out, wrapped in a thick jacket, her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun. She doesn't say anything at first, just comes over and stands beside me, her presence warm and comforting in the cold night. "Hey," she says softly, and that one word carries more understanding than any long-winded speech ever could. "Hey," I reply, my voice cracking. "Thanks for coming." She gives me a small smile. "Always." We sit in the quiet for a while, the river our only soundtrack. Finally, she turns to me, her eyes searching mine. "How are you holding up?" I let out a shaky breath. "Honestly, I don't know. Everything hurts, and I feel so lost. But I think I'm starting to figure out what I need to do." She doesn't push, doesn't ask what my decision is. Instead, she reaches over and squeezes my hand. "Whatever you decide, I'm here, and you'll get through this, even if it doesn't feel that way right now." Her words sink in, wrapping around me like a safety net. For the first time since this nightmare began, I feel like I might actually be able to breathe again. "Thanks," I whisper, tears burning my eyes. "I don't deserve you." Emma rolls her eyes, her smile widening. "You're my brother. I'm stuck with you, whether you like it or not." I laugh, and it feels good, even if it's short-lived. The weight of my decision still hangs over me, but with Emma beside me, it doesn't feel quite as impossible. I turn to her, the question forming on my lips. "How do you know when to walk away?" I ask, my voice quiet. She thinks for a moment, her gaze distant. "When staying hurts more than leaving," she says. "When holding on starts to break you down instead of build you up." I nod, the truth of her words settling in my heart. It's not about whether I still love Kelly, or whether she's truly sorry. It's about whether staying would destroy the person I'm trying to become. And as much as it pains me, I think I already know the answer. We sit there for a long time, watching the river and the stars above. The road ahead is still uncertain, and I know there will be more painful moments, more nights spent questioning everything. But for now, I'm choosing myself. I'm choosing to heal, even if it means walking away from a life I thought was mine. And that choice, as difficult as it is, feels like the first real step toward something new. Toward a future where I'm no longer defined by the betrayal, but by the strength it took to let go. Have you ever faced a betrayal that shattered your world? How did you find the strength to rebuild? Or are you still on that journey? Share your experiences in the comments below. I'd love to hear your story. If this tale resonated with you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more gripping, heartfelt narratives. Your support means everything. Stay strong and remember, healing is possible, one step at a time.